Network's first part of our two-part series of mental fitness. Just as a heads up, we will be recording this session to share it with our members as sort of a prerequisite for next week's part 2, which we really hope that you will join us for. And this is, I think, really, really important because, I mean, as you guys know, 2020 was just a crazy year, but we're going to start 2021 off on a high note, right? So how do we do that, right? It's all here first. Everything starts here. So I'm really excited to introduce you guys to Amy Yip, our resident expert and fellow TERP alum. I went to school with her, so this is really, really cool for me. And I'm just going to turn it over to her. Amy, hi.
Hello. Hi. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Amy Yip, and I am a Maryland 04 alum. It is an honor and privilege to be back here to get with the Maryland APA community. Back when I was at Maryland, I was highly involved with all of the communities. I was president of CSA, VP of AASU, started APA 1. So I'm really thrilled that after, I guess it's been like 16, 17 years to be reconnected. So as Sylvie said, the purpose of today's workshop is to learn about boosting your mental fitness, what it is, how to strengthen your mental fitness so you can shift from surviving to thriving. And so you can recognize your saboteurs and how you might be self-sabotaging so that you can unlock your authentic self. It will take about an hour and a half, and there will be plenty of time to ask questions throughout the presentation. If you do have questions, you can pop them into the chat. You can unmute yourself and shout if you would like. We'll be able to have questions happen throughout. I want you to not be shy. Don't worry about interrupting me. It's more important for me to make sure that your questions are answered and that you're following. I'm also going to leave some time at the end. So if there's anything else that you want to ask, you'll be able to do it there. And the payoff is when you strengthen your mental fitness, you'll be able to develop mastery over your own mind. How many of you have struggled to figure out who you really are and what matters to you? Part of you said, yeah, this is who I am, what I want to do. Like, I'm super stoked about this. Then a voice might have stepped in and told you, nope, that's a bad idea. You'll lose face, or maybe your parents won't approve, you'll disappoint them, and you don't want to feel that guilt or the shame. And I often use this analogy of an onion. So all of us, we're like onions. And at our core, we know who we are, what our values are, what's important for us, what gets us jumping out of bed at night or in the morning. And then there's the layers of the onions, and I call those the shoulds. And those are the shoulds of parents, of managers, of teachers, of society telling you who you should or shouldn't be, how you should or shouldn't act, what you should and shouldn't do. And when you're able to develop mastery over your own mind, you'll ultimately learn to recognize what truly matters to you. You'll be able to discern what the shoulds are versus the I want tos. And you'll be able to reach your full potential so you can be the author of your own life, so you can unlock your authentic self, which leads to greater happiness. It leads to higher performance at work, your ability to handle stress, be more emotionally resilient, and even how you're able to engage in your relationships, both professionally, the ones in your community, and even personal ones, like maybe with your parents. So, first, I want to share a little about how I started here and why this mental fitness stuff matters. So, for context, in January 2020, I left my job at Google. I sold all my belongings in my New York City apartment. And with just a backpack on our backs, my husband and I took a one-way flight to Ghana to volunteer at a breast cancer nonprofit. And our plan was In May, we would volunteer until May, and then in May, we would start traveling the world. No end date in mind. We were thinking sometime 2021, we would head back home, and it's been a dream of mine forever. Clearly, COVID hit, and COVID had different plans for us. So I ended up getting stuck in Ghana for 7 months. So I got stuck there, borders were closed, and so I was stuck until September when they reopened. And in September, when borders reopened, since we don't have a home in the US to go back to, all we have is this backpack on our backs. We didn't want to put our parents at risk since they're aging. We decided, well, okay, where can we go live in the world? We decided Serbia was one of very few countries that was allowing Americans in at the time. And so we went to Serbia. We stayed there until December when our visas expired. And now I am in Croatia. So, a lot of people comment about this lovely painting behind me. That's part of the Airbnb. But I'm in Croatia and I'll call this home until our visas expire and we'll look for a new home. And the thing is, I've had a ton of people tell me how brave it was to leave Google and do what I did, and that they wish they had the courage to do the same. And the reality is, it wasn't easy. It wasn't even close. And I promise you, you do have that courage in you to do the same if that's what your heart desires. So, you see, prior to joining Google, I was actually at Clorox and I was a brand manager, and I felt completely stuck. I wasn't happy at all, but I didn't know what to do. So I had actually quit my job. I made the decision to quit, and I had plans to go to Tanzania, teach women business skills, and then travel and soul search, kind of like a eat, pray, love thing. And of course, I feared my parents' disappointment. They were already pretty pissed that I had left a prestigious consulting job, paid this crazy amount of money to go to business school, to take on a lesser paying job marketing salad dressing. Because at Clorox, I was a brand manager of Hidden Valley Ranch dressing. And actually, before salad dressing, I was marketing cat litter. So imagine the embarrassment my parents felt in telling their friends, yeah, our daughter, she paid all this money, went to business school, and now she's marketing cat litter, and now she's going to quit her job and go to Africa to volunteer. So I had actually planned not to tell the whole truth. I was going to tell them Clorox is actually sending me overseas for a global role. And I figured they wouldn't find out. They're not really on social media. But of course, my sister, she went and told them the truth before I could even tell them the lie that I had planned out. And my parents guilt tripped me. They told me Africa is dangerous. You're going to get killed. Can't you just donate money? And my mom prayed every day that either one, I would find a husband, or that I would find a job that would stop me from leaving. And her prayers were answered because serendipitously, the day that I was about to buy my flight, a Google recruiter contacted me on LinkedIn, said, "Hey, I saw your profile, think you're a great fit for this role. Are you interested?" And it was a global role. I get to travel, and my job was to use marketing and help people to live happier, healthier lives. And I was like, wait, what? So 16 days later, I had an offer. 2 weeks after that, I started. And the truth was, I was scared to drop everything. I also felt a lot of guilt disappointing my parents. And plus, it was Google and it made my parents proud. But I always said 5 years max is how long I'm going to stay at Google. And the 5 year point was December 2019. But at the time, I didn't realize how much changes in 5 years, especially if you are in the midst of your 30s. So I'm 39 right now. So during that period, it was like prime 30s. It is when you as a woman need to make pivotal decisions about your career, your family, children, all of that. And during that time, my career was going really well at Google. So everyone was asking me, why on earth would you leave Google? Managers, colleagues, friends, and of course, my parents and all of their friends. They would constantly say, there are so many people trying to get into Google. Why would you be leaving? It's so prestigious. Are you nuts? My parents were also aging, and I am the youngest among my siblings. I am the only one that didn't have a family at the time, wasn't married. So I had this burden and this responsibility for taking care of them. And plus, my mom would always say, so you're going to go to Africa to take care of these strangers and not stay here to take care of us. Guilt was something that my parents used very well on me. And my parents continued to pray because I was like, well, the job thing didn't work, so that's not going to keep me here. And my parents kept praying, and their prayers were answered. So I did get a husband during those 5 years. And of course, husbands change plans. And my husband started pursuing his own venture, and I became the sole breadwinner. And I felt such pressure. Like I had to be the stable one to hold down the fort. I had to be reliable, while he did his thing, and I had to wait to live my dreams. But to be honest, there was so much pressure from everyone around me telling me what I should do or who I should be that I really wasn't even sure what my own dreams were. And one of the biggest shoulds that I heard during that time was, Amy, you're at the prime baby making age. You have to have kids. You can't stop your clock from ticking. Your eggs are rotting. You're going to regret this. This is what Chinese girls need to do. It is your time to have baby. You're already late. So my husband and I decided to freeze our embryos, which of course my parents got really pissed at us for doing. They're like, you're ridiculous. You should just have babies. Why are you freezing embryos? And a year later, after we froze them, there was a mishap at the facility where they were stored. And let's just say I still don't know whether those embryos are viable until we are ready to use them. But in that moment, everything just felt super heavy and I had no idea what to do. I felt a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. I felt like a disappointment to my parents, like a failure to the Asian community because my role was supposed to be to, be a mother, start a family, carry on the family name. And I also felt like I didn't have a right to feel bad because I had this great job at a great company, a wonderful husband. I had a great support system of fabulous friends. And even though my parents nag a lot and they do the whole guilt trip thing, I know they love me tremendously. So it felt extremely lonely, like nobody would understand. And there was also a lot of shame and, wanting to keep face. So I couldn't even bring myself to talk to anyone about it. So I started on this self help journey and I spent 8 months reading every book out there from like Brene Brown's Gifts of Imperfection to Spencer Johnson's Who Moved My Cheese, read every book for 8 months. And the reading didn't get me anywhere. And I got really desperate because I knew my time was ticking. So a friend had told me about ayahuasca. If you don't know what ayahuasca is, it's a medicinal plant concoction. It's a Peruvian thing, and there's a shaman that performs this ceremony. And one of my friends told me about it and said, yeah, it's supposed to help you gain clarity. And I'm like, that's what I need. I need clarity. So I flew down to Peru for a 5-day ayahuasca ceremony. And I was like, Mother Ayahuasca, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do with my life. Do I have babies or do I go do this thing that I want to do? And 5 days later, so I did a 5-day ceremony. 5 days later, I got a lot of insights about life, but not the answer I was looking for. When I returned to the US, someone told me about coaching, and I'd never heard of coaching before. Fast forward, I found a fabulous coach who helped me to peel back my layers of my onion. And we got to the core of who I am, my needs, my values, and I realized two things. One, I want to pursue this dream. I want to go volunteer. I want to travel the world. And if I had kids right now, I will hold a lot of resentment later for not pursuing what matters to me most. So I made my decision to quit Google, that I would quit Google and then I would go do this thing. And then the other thing that I decided on was I really want to be a coach because I want to do what my coach did for me because being stuck in that place of not knowing who I really am and what matters to me really sucked. And one of my greatest learnings on this journey was that your mindset, not your circumstances, makes all the difference in your happiness and success. And mental fitness is what helped me to find that courage to begin with to pursue my dreams. It helped me to pivot my dreams during COVID when I got stuck in Ghana for 7 months. And it's helped me to find the gift in every circumstance to have stronger relationships, even with my parents, and figure out what really, really matters to me. And that's why I'm here today, because I am passionate about bringing this to the world and helping people to figure out who they are, what really matters, and to follow their hearts. So that is why I am here today. That is my story. So I am going to start this now. Um, so what I want to do now that you have a little sense of who I am, I would love to get to know you a little more. And I know there's a lot of people on here, so we're not going to get to everyone. But I'm going to randomly, how we're going to do this is I'm going to randomly pick someone's face that I see or name. And I'd love to get a sense of what you're hoping to get out of today. Why are you here? And then when you're done, you pick somebody else that's on the screen and we'll do this like popcorn style. Okay. So I will spin the wheel. Ram Malhotra. I don't want to mess up. So if you can unmute and tell me, you could say your name correctly and then tell me what you're hoping to get out of today.
Oh yeah, my name is Ram
Ram.
Malhotra,
Mhm.
and I guess I really wasn't expecting to join, and I think it's because I guess I've had I have had a big life change recently, and I guess it's been kind of fortunate, but I am in a place where I guess I'm just trying to mull and think like what my next steps should be, or what I want to do. And then there's also some things that I've noticed that uh, I've done some things that have sort of like almost like a self-sabotage in a way. And I guess that was sort of like a wake-up call of like for me, like, oh, why, even though I've had this kind of fortunate circumstance happen, I had this self-sabotaging behavior that I really didn't expect. It just happened, and it was
Mhm.
kind of work related, I guess, or my kind of this new work that I've kind of jumped into. And I guess, it's really when I saw that email in my inbox from the Alumni Association, and I guess that self-sabotage uh, headline kind of grabbed my attention.
We
And
all do it.
yeah, and it just like clicked on. I was like, wow, what are the odds that that came up when I started thinking about that,
Mhm.
incident that had happened about a month ago, and and I guess I just thought, oh God, this is like the world saying something. And so
Mhm.
I guess I clicked on the link, and I'm here today to just kind of figure out, you know, why that coincidence happened,
Okay.
and I know it's weird, but I mean, that's
No,
what,
I always think things happen for a reason. So
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you for being here. Who do you want to pick?
I'll pick Sylvia's song. She's like next on the list on my
Oh, hi.
gallery.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sylvie. I'm I've always I was a psychology major in undergrad at Maryland, right? And I've always been like all about like, yes, our minds, we have to take care of our brains and stuff like that. And then I never did it for myself. I have to be quite honest. I even went to social work school for my master's, and I've never been to like therapy. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to practice what I preach. And I think
Mhm.
it's so like mental health services and just everything in general in the Asian American community so underutilized. And I'm like, we really need to do better. We got to take care of ourselves better. So that's why I've been a big fan of this. And this is sort of my first step personally. Not only am I involved in the Alumni Association, but like really this is something that's near and dear to me. So um, Thanks
you.
everybody. And this is really uncomfortable, but it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. And we have to like break out of our shells, because I know that a lot of us, like culturally, it's like, oh, don't speak up, like, keep it inside, right? Like, I don't want that to happen anymore. We got to break the cycle, guys. I'm going to call on Margarita.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
This is Margarita, and I just wanted to say the headline. So someone in marketing is doing an amazing job, but what really resonated with me, and I think many of us can relate with, is I loved what I saw in the chat that like Asian parents, listen, it's not a blame game, it's a reality. They do perpetuate that cycle, and I think the most stressful thing and the burden that we all carry is many of our parents and grandparents really grew up in that collectivist culture. But then we go to business school or engineering school, and then of course we're competitive, but then it seems like it's individualistic. So every day, like there's this constant struggle. And I think that I love what you said, Sylvie. Like I do think that, mental health is underutilized. Like they just like want to sweep it under the rug and hope and pray it goes away. But talking about it is the first step. So I'm so excited to be here. And your story is so moving. Like thank you so much for your candor and courage, to speak out on these things.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I can't see because I'm in the car.
No, it's totally fine. Totally fine.
So,
I was gonna say that's all we have time for in terms of introductions, but I would love for somebody to unmute and tell me what do you think mental fitness is all about? Any guesses?
I think it's about managing your life to the best of your ability, having the balance that you're looking for, and striving to improve every day.
Awesome.
I'm Elliot, by the way.
Hi, Elliot.
Hello, Amy.
Thank you. Who else? Let's break the stigma of non-participation. Speak up.
So I think mental fitness is like a practice you're building your muscle. So you want your mental become more resilient.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. So mental fitness is essentially, it's your capacity to respond to life's challenges with positive mindset rather than getting upset and stressed. And if we were to use a physical analogy to bring this to life, if you have average physical fitness, you could climb small hills easily. But if a big mountain is put in front of you and your physical fitness isn't strong enough to handle it, you're climbing the mountain and you'll be out of breath, you'll be physically stressed, and it'll be hard for you to handle. And the same thing is happening to many of us with what is going on in the world today, with the pandemic, working from home, politics, race relationships in our communities, with our families, with our parents. And the thing is, most people are of average mental fitness, which means you're able to handle the hills of life with relatively okay levels of stress. But what is happening in the world right now is a mountain of challenges. And so using this analogy, what you begin to see is possibility, right? This thing that's getting me all stressed out. I'm not really able to handle all that it brings without getting upset, without getting stressed. Maybe I shouldn't be blaming the mountain. Maybe the mountain is just a mountain. Maybe it's not a bad thing necessarily. Maybe the question I should be asking is, how do I build up my mental fitness so that I can climb that mountain, so that I can handle the challenges around me in such a way that I'm going to be in positive emotion rather than all stressed out and upset? And imagine when you get to the other side of this mountain, what happens with the rest of your life. And the rest of your life, you will likely be given mid-level hills to climb. And you'll be thinking, hey, this is a piece of cake. I was able to climb this mountain. My level of stress is lower than ever, right? So audience participation again, why do you think mental fitness matters? Feel free to unmute. Anybody? Why are you here?
Hi, everyone. This is Rohan. I kind of came here as well, to understand, from mental fitness. I thought like your last slide pointed out to what I was thinking, which is kind of, life is full of many, many different varieties of challenges. And then, it's how you react to those challenges. It can either be positive or negative. And then at the same time, if it is a negative reaction, you're also creating, mental stress for other people, around you. So I think this subject and forum is fantastic in the sense of bringing awareness to it. But, that's why it matters, because I think it's not only for yourself, but it's for people around you as well.
Yes, that is very true. There is an effect on yourself and those around you. And the other thing is, a lot of times when it comes to mental fitness or whatever else is in our life, only a lot of us want to change. A lot of us want to change how we respond. It might be, like for me, for the longest time, I had the hyperachiever saboteur and I was constantly getting stressed. And I wanted to change that. But the thing is, with change, only 20% of change is insight. That is why when I read book after book for 8 months, I still could not figure out what it was that I wanted. I could not change. It's because 20% of it comes from the knowledge and insight. 80% of change comes from mental muscle and habit. And an example here, it's still January 2021. So who here wants to get healthier? You can raise your hand if your camera's on. And who knows what you need to do to get healthier? I'm sure everybody here can name all those things. You eat more vegetables, eat more fruit, eat healthier, less processed food, you sleep, 7, 8 hours, you go to gym, get some movement, right? So what's standing in your way from getting healthier? Why can't you do it? You have the knowledge. And the thing is, we all know things. We know plenty of things. And knowledge and insight is only 20% of change. The rest is building that mental muscle and habit. And that's why growing it is so critical to building lasting change and happiness, whether your goal is to become less stressed, your goal is to sleep more, to take care of yourself, to have stronger relationships. All of that comes from mental fitness. And when you can strengthen your mental fitness and develop mastery over your own mind, you'll be able to apply this to all areas of your life. So you'll be able to perform better, to let go of that constant need to achieve and that tough inner critic that constantly berates you when you fail, or reframe that need for perfectionism that holds you back from doing the things that really matter. You'll be happier. You'll have more peace of mind and wellness, whether the change you're seeking is to let go of the guilt and shame or feeling like a disappointment, or for many APAs, it's this suppressing and numbing emotions so you don't even know what you feel. Because many of us were taught growing up, emotions and feelings are bad. We don't do that. And you'll be able to even have more positive relationships, so less tension and conflict, even in some of the most stressful relationships that you might have. And at the end of the day, mental fitness is about being the best you that's possible. It's about being a little better today than you were yesterday. And when you're mentally fit, you'll learn to get out of your own way. So my invitation to you today is, rather than waiting for things to pass, rather than, waiting for you to get the next job title or whatever to be happy, can you see how you can get excited about changing your life for the rest of your life with mental fitness muscles that will serve you? And what we will cover today is a background on positive intelligence so that you understand the science behind it. We'll talk through the 3 muscles, which is the survivor brain, the thriving brain, and the self-command muscle. And then we'll put it all together into how you can shift. Okay. And I also, if you have not registered for next Saturday, today is the foundation. Saturday, we're going to be doing breakout rooms and we're going to really deep dive into your saboteurs so that you get to know your saboteurs even better. You'll get to know the lies, the impact it has on you, and how to deal with them. Okay. So Let me start with the science. So if you've taken the assessment already and you happen to have the hyper-rational saboteur and you want the facts and the research, there's plenty of research behind positive intelligence. The concept of mental fitness, as we're talking about today, is based on this research called positive intelligence. And it was conducted by Shirzad Shamin, who led one of the largest coaching training organizations in the world. He is an executive coach to hundreds of CEOs. He's a Stanford lecturer. And the research was conducted across CEOs, Stanford students, world-class athletes, 500,000 participants from 50 countries. And the foundation of the research is based on a synthesis of positive psychology, neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and performance science. I'm not going to get into the details. If you want all the research and all the nitty-gritty things, you can read the book or go to the site for all of that. What I do want to point out, though, is the secret sauce for the research is factor analysis. And what makes this so powerful? Factor analysis is about discovering the root cause of things. And because of this, it results in radical simplification of whatever problem you're looking at. And an example of this is if you were to think about all the thousands of colors out there, you don't need a palette of every single color. All you need is red, blue, and yellow. And that's the power of factor analysis. It gets to the root level of understanding. And that's what's been done with the positive intelligence research in areas of personal performance, relationships, and wellness. And what it found was there are 3 core muscles at the root of mental fitness. It is saboteur interceptor, sage, and self-command muscle. So 3 things. And I know that right now you're probably like, what the heck are those? I'm glad you asked, because that's what we are going to dive into today. So this work has been done all over the world. It's become lovingly called Jedi mind training. If you love Star Wars, and I hope you do, because I might refer to Star Wars a few times here, we call this Jedi mind training because what we realize is happening is that inside your brain, there's this constant war going on between the inner Jedi and the inner Darth Vader. We have these characters inside our head. And the reason we all love Star Wars is because it tells the story of us humans. It tells the inner story of us on screen, what's going on inside our mind. For copyright reasons, obviously we can't use Jedi and Darth Vader, so instead we use the terminology of saboteurs, which are the Darth Vaders. They are the agents of self-sabotage. And then we call the inner Jedi your sage. And factor analysis essentially has shown that with saboteurs, there are only 10 of them. So saboteurs are the ways that we self-sabotage that causes your negative emotions. You don't sabotage yourself, your relationships, your effectiveness in 50 ways, it's just 10. And then on the positive side, with the sage, there are only 5 sage powers. There aren't 10, there aren't 15, there's only 5. So that's what factor analysis shows us. And so if we were to go back to the 3 core muscles, we are going to start with understanding saboteur interceptor. And in order to understand saboteurs, we should talk about the survival brain, because survival is our #1 priority. So very early on in life, we all learned survival strategies, and the survival instinct dates back to early days, caveman, cavewoman days. And what did we have to survive from? It was this thing, the saber-toothed tiger. I saw Sylvie's face. She just went like this. But back during our cavemen and cavewomen days, we needed to survive from this thing. And so what we have learned to do is to always be on the lookout for danger. If the trees are rustling, we have learned if the tree's rustling, there must be a tiger, and I need to decide, do I fight, flight, or freeze? So we're constantly looking for signs of danger. The other thing is that we are constantly trying to fit in, and it goes to survival too. Because back in the day, You wanted to be accepted into the tribe because would you have a greater chance of survival if you were in a tribe or if you were alone? So if you were in a tribe, and so you're trying to fit in and be accepted by the tribe for survival reasons. And that is why today we are still constantly scrolling through Facebook and looking up, like, I don't know, TikTok, whatever else, LinkedIn, and constantly assessing, am I fitting in? Am I special? Am I doing anything that might get me rejected or look like a failure? Am I worthy enough? And we're also constantly judging others. And that is also for survival reasons, because we're trying to figure out, are they the enemy? Are they the enemy, or are they part of my tribe? And it's, for protection for ourselves. So we're constantly assessing and judging. And that is why the judge is the master saboteur. It is the only saboteur every human alive has to some extent. I have the judge. I promise you that you have the judge, your spouse, your colleagues, your parents, we all have the judge. And the judge has 3 modalities. The one we all are probably very familiar with is the inner critic. And that is the judge of self. It's the one that wakes you up at 3 a.m. and says, "Ugh, you idiot, you didn't get that promotion. You're a complete failure." Or, "Why are you feeling these emotions of sadness? That's not okay. That's weakness." Right? It's constantly berating you for past imperfections and for future failures and making you anxious all the time. The second mode of the judge is the one that's constantly looking for what's wrong with other people. So it's the voice saying in your head, "Oh, this one's too dumb. That one's too arrogant. This one's this or that." And it needs to find what's wrong rather than right. And then the third mode of the judge is probably something you're not even aware you're doing, or you're doing it constantly without even recognizing that it is judging. And that is judgment of circumstances, constantly looking for what's wrong in situations. And it is constantly looking at the situations and circumstances of your life and looking for what's wrong so you cannot be happy. It keeps telling you that you can't be happy now because this circumstance is bad, that you can't be happy until these things change, until you've gotten a certain degree from a prestigious school, until you have a certain job title or career, until you buy that home with a white picket fence, or own this TV or this car, or until coronavirus passes. And this is the voice in your head right now that's upset because we're in the midst of a pandemic, and when is this going to end, and when is that going to happen, and everything is just bad, and it causes a lot of stress. And what I want to share with you is that the sage in you, the inner Jedi, would actually look at the current situation and not wait for it to be over. It'll find joy in climbing the mountain instead of waiting for it to be over. So a lot of damage and stress comes from the judge saying bad, 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 whether it's about you, others, or this current circumstance or situation. And so the judge is the master saboteur, and the judge has a couple of accomplice saboteurs, and there's 9 of them. And these 9 include the controller, the hyperachiever, the restless, the stickler, the pleaser, the hypervigilant, the avoider, the victim, and the hyper-rational. What a cast of characters. And I'm sure right now you're probably thinking, "Oh yeah, that nails it. My parents definitely have the controller. They're always trying to control my life." Or my boss has the stickler and it drives me up the wall. Or my spouse has the avoider and it absolutely frustrates me. I don't encourage you to be focusing on other people's saboteurs right now. What I would love is for you to focus on who your saboteurs are. How do you cause your own stress? How do you impact your relationships negatively or your performance negatively? Because the only thing that you have control over is you. And I promise you it's a combination of the judge and a couple of these accomplice saboteurs. And that's how you're self-sabotaging your own well-being, your relationships, your happiness, your performance, your effectiveness. And I promise you that because this is what the factor analysis shows. These are the ones that are doing the damage. I also want to emphasize, please do not feel bad about it, because we all have it. I have it, my family members have it, my closest friends have it, and it is okay. But it is good to know, because that's how you're able to shift and be in control of your own mind, to be aware of how these saboteurs are self-sabotaging you. So if you joined early, or you might have seen in one of the registration notes, you can go to positiveintelligence.com and you can take a free saboteur assessment, and you will get the results to show which are your top saboteurs. For today, it was optional, but if you are attending next Saturday, you will have to take it, because we will be digging into your saboteurs so that you can recognize their lies and their impact on you. It is a quick 5 minutes. So the assessment that you see on the screen, this is mine. My top saboteurs are controller, pleaser, hyperachiever, okay? And the way the assessment helps you to work through your saboteurs is that after you take the assessment, you will get a list of your top saboteurs like this, and then you can actually dig in, and you'll receive descriptions of each of your saboteurs. So this will help you begin to see the ways your saboteurs lie to you, the way that it gets into your head, and how they might try to self-sabotage you. And essentially, it's almost like posting a wanted poster for a criminal, so you can catch them in the act, so you can catch them faster. And we basically created this like wanted poster for that saboteur, because the more you recognize the lies, the faster you can intercept it when it shows up. And the key is to get to know your saboteur so well, to know all of its lies, how it impacts you, so that you can easily catch it in action. It's all about awareness. This is the first step, because I guarantee most of you might not even recognize the lies and impacts that your saboteurs have on you. That's how stealth it can be. And, you know, I want to use the hyperachiever as an example. It's one of my top saboteurs. And I found that among the Asian community, hyperachiever tends to be one of the top saboteurs for many. And the hyperachiever saboteur is dependent on constant performance and achievement for self-respect and self-validation. Highly focused on external success, and it often leads to an unsustainable workaholic tendency and loss of touch with deeper emotions and relationship needs. And you might be thinking, but isn't being an achiever a good thing? And the thing with all saboteurs is they are a strength overused. And it is like, it's kind of like if you think of a knife. You can use a knife for good and for bad. A surgeon can use a knife to save someone's life. A murderer can use it to kill someone. And so saboteurs are the same way. It is a strength that is overused. So if we were to dig into the hyperachiever, it does come with strengths: driven, pragmatic, adaptable, right? Self-directed, very capable of growing myself and others to reach full potential. And when inner directed, can be super inspiring for self and others. But when overused, the hyperachiever saboteur can have a negative impact on yourself and others. So the joy of achievement is short-lived. How many of you have worked your butts off to get to the top of a mountain, and you barely celebrated your success and you are already looking for the next mountain to achieve? And oftentimes those with hyperachiever saboteur believe in the lie that you will be happy when. But what happens when you achieve that thing you believe will bring you happiness? How long did it last? And then what? You might have felt happy for 5 minutes, then you're off to the next thing. And that's because self-acceptance is continuously conditioned on the next thing that you want to succeed. So your worth is tied to achievement. And the achievement monster is never full. It constantly wants to be fed. It's this never-ending cycle that has to fill this achievement monster. The other impact is that you lose touch with deeper self. the ability to connect with others. You know, you're often so focused on achieving and doing that you forget who you are and what matters. And the thing is, we are all human beings. We are not human doings. But people with the hyperachiever saboteurs are so focused on doing, we forget to be. And others might be pulled into this performance vortex of the hyperachiever and become similarly lopsided in their focus. So this often happens to many in the APA community. Parents have instilled this notion of achievement into us, and we believe this is how we need to be. If you have kids, this can be passed on to them as well. And it causes a lot of mental distress and a lot of heavy burden. So that's the hyperachiever saboteur. And when you take the assessment, you'll get detailed descriptions like this. And again, it's like posting that wanted poster so that you really get to know who the saboteur is, the lies, the impacts on you, and you can catch it faster. And if you're anything like me, you're probably wondering, well, okay, I still feel like having the hyperachiever is a good thing because I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't pushing me. So an important part of this work is to help you see that the saboteur and sage live in different parts of the brain. Saboteurs live in a part of your brain that we call the survival brain. And remember that saber-toothed tiger we talked about? So that's what the saboteurs are trying to protect you from, even though we don't have any saber-toothed tigers anymore. And that's the left side of the brain. And then the sage side lives in a different part of the brain, okay? There are 2 chapters in Positive Intelligence book that goes into this. I'm not going to worry you with all the details here, or we'd be here for like another few hours. But what I want you to be aware of is they sit into different parts of the brain. And with the saboteurs, they motivate you through negative emotions like fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, insecurity. And the sage perspective motivates you through positive emotions like curiosity, creativity, passion, and purpose. They both can help you succeed, but through different emotions and motivations. You can be successful with saboteurs. You'll just be stressed and upset a lot more. So saboteurs might help you generate success, but not happiness, right? There's no denying in that. And sage generates your highest success and sustained happiness. An example of this is you can think about playing sports, like a basketball game. There's 2 seconds left in the game and you receive the ball. If you make the basket, you're going to win the championship. And if you miss the ball, you're going to lose the championship. So what happens in your brain? If the saboteurs are running the show, you'll be stressed and you'll be saying, oh my gosh, if I screw up, I'm going to ruin everything and everyone's going to hate me. I better make the ball or make the shot. And the level of stress is actually what causes a lot of top athletes to choke. And that's because the saboteurs are talking. And if the sage was in your head, you get the ball and you're finding a lot of joy and you're like, this is amazing. And I get to shoot this ball, and you make the shot and everything's great. And if you are a Warriors fan and you like Steph Curry, if you watch him play, he is someone that plays from joy, and you can see that. Even in the most important games, he plays from a place of joy. So you can achieve success with saboteur, but your highest achievement comes from the sage perspective. Plus, you get to be happy while you're doing it. Another question that often comes up from people is, aren't negative emotions good for you? Right? Doesn't your stress give you a performance edge? That's how I motivate myself. And, you know, it's an important question. So to that, I want to ask you a parallel question. Is pain good for you? And hopefully, if you think about it, your answer is yes. Because if I were to put my hand on a hot stove, it is good for me to feel that pain. Otherwise, I would keep my hand on the hot stove and burn my hand. So yes, it's good to feel the pain when you feel something is going wrong. But the question is then, for how long should you keep your hand on the hot stove? And hopefully you're saying that as soon as you feel the message, you feel that pain, you will remove your hand. And that's the same thing with negative emotions. Is it good for you to feel stress about something that might be dangerous? Yes. For example, with coronavirus, if you don't feel any stress about coronavirus, then maybe you're not going to take any precautions and you'll expose yourself to dangers. Or if you're in the middle of a work project, things are going wrong, things are getting screwed up, then yeah, it might be good to feel a little bit of stress. Because if you don't feel any of that stress, then you'll keep doing what you're doing and things will get worse. But the question is for how long? And hopefully your answer is 1 second, right? So the value of feeling that negative emotion is you'll wake up, you'll realize, okay, something needs my attention. And in that moment, you can decide what to do. And you can find the best solution. Because when you are stressed, it actually doesn't help you find the best solution either. Right? It's the sage perspective that helps you to be able to come up with creative solutions, be calm, be clear-headed. And that's the right side of the brain. So to answer that question, negative emotions, yes, it is good, but it is only helpful for 1 second as an alert. Staying in negative emotion hurts your ability to see clearly and respond with empathy, with curiosity, creativity, and laser-focused action. So negative emotions, that is saboteur, right? When you're feeling negative emotions, you know that it is the saboteur in action. So when you're feeling a negative emotion, I want you to say to the saboteur, oh, I don't trust you. I don't believe you. You are not my friend, right? If you take the test, you'll get all the details, you'll recognize it, and you'll be able to say, I know you're lying. And that's how you become better at this first muscle that we've been digging into, which is the saboteur interceptor. It's because you're discrediting the thoughts that are causing the negative emotions and the response. And that's how you get mentally fit, by intercepting your saboteurs. And so back to the 3 core muscles at the root of mental fitness that we just went through, we went through the saboteur interceptor. And the goal here is to recognize that it is lying. Okay, and next week, if you join, we will be really going deep dive into all of the saboteurs and how it impacts you and how to overcome each of them. So the second core muscle, actually, Sylvie, are there any questions? Or are there any questions? Anybody, if you do have any, you can unmute.
We've had some good conversations in the chat, but I don't see any questions unless someone wants to speak up and unmute themselves. Okay, then I will keep going on. So we talked through the saboteur interceptor, and now we are going to talk about the sage. And the sage, remember, that's on this different side of the brain, and it is associated to these positive emotions, peace and calm, creativity, big picture thinking, and it operates from a sage perspective. And the sage perspective is that every outcome or circumstance can be turned into a gift and opportunity. Every outcome or circumstance can be turned into a gift and opportunity. Oh, by the way, the coronavirus included. And the saboteur will say, this is stupid, this is silly, this is dangerous, this is naive. That part of your brain, if you are activated by that part of your brain, will say, you know, that's silly. But when you're activating the sage side, you will know that there is a gift or an opportunity. And I want to tell a story that tells you the wisdom of the sage. So there's an old farmer, and it's called the stallion story. So there is an old farmer, and he lives on his farm with his teenage son. He also has this beautiful stallion that he lovingly cares for. The stallion is his most prized possession. And the farmer enters his stallion into the annual county fair competition. His stallion wins first prize. And the farmer's neighbors gather to congratulate him on his win. And he calmly says, who knows what is good? Who knows what is bad? The neighbors are puzzled, but they go away.
And the next week, some thieves who heard about the stallion's increased value come and they steal the horse. So the neighbors come, they commiserate with the farmer, and they find him again very calm. And he says, "Who knows what is good? Who knows what is bad?" Again, they're super puzzled. They go away. Several days later, the spirited stallion escapes from the thieves and finds his way back to the farm, bringing with him a few wild mares that he's befriended along the way. His neighbors are excited. They come and congratulate him. And again, the farmer says calmly, "Who knows what is good and who knows what is bad?" Again, they're puzzled, but they go away. And a few weeks later, the farmer's son is riding the stallion. He's thrown off one of these new mares that he's trying to break in, and his leg is fractured. And the neighbors come, they commiserate. And once again, he reminds them calmly, "Who knows what is good and who knows what is bad?" And at this point, his neighbors think he is losing his mind. They go away. And the following week, the Imperial Army, they march through the village and they are drafting eligible young men for war. The old farmer's son is spared because his leg is fractured. And the neighbors no longer bother to come to the old farmer to congratulate him. By now, they know that the farmer's response is going to be the same. So what is he going to say? You can please say it with me. You can stay on mute, but say it with me so we can all remember. Who knows what is good and who knows what is bad? And that is the profound wisdom in this story. If there's nothing else you remember from today, remember the stallion story, because it changes everything when you begin to bring this perspective to everything. And one of my favorite quotes is from Albert Einstein. "The most important decision we make is whether we believe we live in a friendly or a hostile universe." So my question to you is, what do you believe? The answer to this question determines our entire experience of life. And whether we realize it or not, we are always acting from one of these perspectives. Research has shown what you are calling your experience, only 20% of it is from the actual external circumstance or event. 80% of what you're calling your experience is getting generated from the information that is inside your brain. Okay, I will repeat, your experience, only 20% is the actual external circumstances. And so every day you come across things, and I call this the fork in the road. You come across big things, you come across little things that go wrong. At this fork in the road, between saboteurs saying bad, 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 and having you feel bad, versus the sage saying, I can turn this into a gift. How often do you take the saboteur fork in the road and all of those negative consequences and emotions, and you get stressed and upset and it spirals? Or do you take the sage perspective and say, well, what is the gift and opportunity in this? If you are still waiting for the pandemic to be over so you can get on with your life, that stress and impatience is your saboteur. It is the judge saying, this is bad. If you're still waiting for the next achievement, the next title, the next salary bump to be enough and to be happy, it is your saboteur telling you, this is bad. Your sage would be asking a very different question. It would be asking, what are all the gifts that I can create for myself, for my loved ones, for my friends, for my school, for my company, for the world? And trust me, if you start asking that question every hour, every day, you will find so many things that you will be able to do, and it'll have a spiraling effect. The more you do it and ask yourself what gifts you can find, the more you'll see it. And one of my favorite sayings is, where focus goes, energy flows. If you look for stuff that's bad and wrong, you will find more stuff that's bad and wrong. If you look for the gift and opportunity, you will find more of the gift and opportunity. And I also promise you, if you look through your life history, every high point in your life was only made possible because of a low point. There's always something that happened because something shitty happened, right? I mean, for me, like, I've been through so many breakups, and during those breakups, it sucked. And I thought that was like the worst thing ever. But I would not be with my amazing husband today had I not broken up with those people and gone through those heartbreaks. So for every high point and everything that has happened in your life, it has come because of something else. There is always a gift and opportunity if you look for it. So that was the sage. It's the sage perspective, looking at the gift and opportunity. The first one was saboteur interceptor, really getting to know your saboteur, being able to catch it in its act. Second is the sage. And now we're going to talk about self-command muscle, and we will do some practices together. So question, who thinks they are in control of their mind? You can raise your hand. Anybody? I can see, no? I can't see everyone, but all right. Okay. So, how many of you still live and respond from a place of anxiety and frustration, restlessness, guilt, shame, anger, even though you know it doesn't serve you? So the thing I want to look you, whoever, all the ones that I can see on my screen, I want to look you in the eye, even though we've just met. And I want to boldly look you in the eye and say, I want to challenge you. You are not in command of your own mind. If you haven't built up your self-command muscle, you are not in command of your own mind. And how do I know that? It's because if you were in command of your own mind, would you really command your mind to wake you up at 3 a.m. and worry about things? Perhaps that presentation that you have to make for tomorrow, or something you forgot to do. If you were in command of your own mind, would you really be waiting for this pandemic to be over so you can be happier again, or for you to achieve that next job title, or get that next promotion, or buy the, 50-inch screen TV to be happy? All of your stress, all of your negative emotions are not things you would choose. We don't choose these things. We don't want to feel this way. So if you aren't choosing it, then why is it happening? And it's because you aren't running the show. You're not running your mind. Your mind is running the show. And too often it is doing so from the saboteur mode. Too much of that Darth Vader is messing with you. So what we want to do with the third muscle, the self-command muscle, so you can observe yourself and which mode you are in, whether it's the saboteur or the sage, is to command your mind to shift from one mode to the other, from saboteur to sage. And that's how we really end up making a difference here. So how do we do this? It is with something called a PQ rep. PQ, it stands for positive intelligence quotient. And so we are going to do practices. For physical fitness, if I wanted to build up my biceps, what would I do? I would go pick up a dumbbell. I don't have a dumbbell, but I would do some bunch of reps for my bicep. And the equivalent of a dumbbell rep for building up your self-command muscle, which are the fibers right under your forehead, is a PQ rep. And the way we do it is with 10 seconds of PQ. So I'm gonna show you one version. So you can take 2 fingers. So take 2 fingertips and gently rub them against each other with such a tension that you can feel the fingertip ridges against each other. So gently rub those 2 fingertips against each other with such a tension. You can feel the fingertip ridges against each other on both fingers. And that was 10 seconds. And if I were to put your head under an MRI machine, what you would notice is that just the 10 seconds of PQ reps ever so slightly quieted the region of your brain where saboteurs live, and ever so slightly activated the region where your sage lives. That was just 10 seconds. That was one rep. That's not going to change everything. But what if you did a lot of these things it will build up that inner Jedi warrior that commands herself, himself, not to be stressed, that, to activate and shift to that sage perspective. And that's what we want you to be able to do. There are lots of different ways. There's dozens of different ways to do this. You can do it with visual, with breathing. So you can breathe and notice the temperature of air as it enters and exits your nostrils. You can wiggle your toes and try to pay attention to all of your toes as you wiggle them. We won't have time to do them here today, but the key is to know that there are lots of different ways. We all have different preferences, and you can play around to identify which ones help you to shift most easily. And for those who are into mindfulness and meditation, you might recognize there might be a similarity here. And just like everything else, what positive intelligence, what my mental fitness has done is gone down to the root level. So meditation and mindfulness are specialized forms of these PQ reps. The beauty of these 10-second PQ reps is that you don't have to be a lifelong meditator to be able to do these. You can also do them with your eyes open, right? Because what if you are in the middle of a challenging work meeting, and maybe someone said something dumb, or you feel attacked, or someone missed their deadline? You can feel a little emotionally charged, but you can't say, okay, everyone, I got to step out and I got to meditate right now, right? But what you can do to shift your brain activation is you can do this with your fingers and nobody would even notice. And you can shift that right in the middle of a meeting, and you can start learning to shift from being upset and stressed into the calmer, clear-headed, sage perspective. All right. And the goal here is to be able to command your busy mind in the middle of your busy day. And in order to do this, it requires practice before you actually need it. If you think about musicians, athletes, actors, artists, they spend upwards of 80% of their time in practice or rehearsal, constantly repeating, focused attention. And it is essential for embodied learning. It is essential to getting yourself trained so that when you need it, when it's game time, you can perform, right? So if you practice those PQ reps throughout your day, then when your parents are lecturing you about something, your manager is pinging you late in the evening, you have the capacity to use those muscles that you've already strengthened. So those are the three core muscles. It is the saboteur interceptor, the sage, and the self-command. And I'm going to put them all together now so that you can see how it works together. And the simplicity of it is there's three core muscles, and we all know life isn't easy, life is challenging, we're constantly trying to change. And what this basically gives you is an operating manual so that you can shift, right? So the way this works is by putting everything together that we've talked about into 3 easy steps. The first is, if you're feeling negative emotions, then stop. It doesn't matter who is doing what to you. It doesn't matter what just happened in the world. If you are feeling negative emotions for more than 1 second and reacting to it, then stop. You are in saboteur mode and it is not helping. Sometimes it might be tough to just stop. A way that helps is to name your saboteur. So for example, you can call it Darth Vader. You can call it, like I call my hypervigilant the Miss Worrier, like, oh, there you go again, Miss Worrier. And you can say it, oh, there you go again. I see you. I was waiting for you to show up, right? To separate it, because it is tough sometimes to pull yourself out of that. And remember to have compassion for yourself. Don't get upset with yourself, name it and stop it. Then the second step is to shift your awareness. Do some PQ reps. If you are hijacked by the saboteur, it will be hard for you to say, oh, what's the gift and opportunity in this situation? You need to actually shift your brain. So you do some PQ reps. We practice the finger one. There's other ones. But this basically commands your mind to shift. And again, like if we were to put your brain under an MRI scan, you would see that the PQ rep will quiet the region of your brain where saboteurs live and activate the sage side. And there are dozens of other ways. We won't get to practice today. If the challenge is bigger, you will do longer. 10 seconds will not shift you immediately. You might need a few minutes, you might need 10 minutes, you might need 15 minutes. Okay. So you can think of this just like going to the gym. How heavy is the weight that you're trying to lift? If the challenge is heavier, you might need to do a little longer. And then the third is then we want you to assume sage perspective. Can you see that there's a gift and opportunity? What might the gift and opportunity be? And because you've done the PQ reps, you've been able to shift to more of a positive state, you can come at it with more empathy, curiosity, creativity, calm, clear-headed, focused attention. Okay. And oftentimes I get the question, so is it really possible to just shift from saboteur to sage response even in tough challenges? And to answer this question, I want to use an example of how you can use this in all kinds of situations, the 3 steps. So let's look at an example of a romantic relationship that leads to marriage as an example. So let's say you're dating someone and you see the beauty in them, the essence of them, and that's releasing sage in you. And as you use your sage, that brings out their sage more. And there's this dance between your sage and their sage, and it's just beautiful. What's not to love, right? It's a whole positive contagion of love. My sage and your sage are just absolutely beautiful, and we're so in love. And then we get married. And then 5 months, a year goes by. We're standing in the bathroom. And all of a sudden, let's say you're looking at him or her, or I'm looking at, my husband, and you go, oh my gosh, he's squeezing the toothpaste from the middle of the tube. It's so stupid. It's so inefficient. Why is he doing that? And let's say you have a controller saboteur like I do, and your controller saboteur wants to control this silly thing, wants to control how he's squeezing the toothpaste. And he notices our controller saboteur. And he doesn't have a controller saboteur. Why? Because typically people get drawn to and married to others who have complementary saboteurs, not the same. Because if 2 controller saboteurs got married, somebody's going to kill somebody. So typically 2 controllers wouldn't get married. Okay. So typically a controller might marry someone with an avoider or pleaser saboteur. And let's say he has the avoider, like my husband, and he starts avoiding his partner who's trying to control him, who's trying to control the way he's trying to use his toothpaste. And then you say, oh my gosh, who did I get married to here? He squeezes the toothpaste all funny and he's avoiding me. He's changed. And what's really going on is that now your judge is coming out, and your judge and your controller are judging him and feeling his saboteurs. So now he's becoming more of an avoider, and his judge comes out and says, what she's doing is so unfair. She's trying to control who I am. And before you know it, your relationship has gone from this positive dance of sage to this negative dance of saboteurs over toothpaste. And that's why conflicts are recurring. It's because when we get into the saboteur mode, they are fueling each other. My saboteur brings out your saboteur fuels mine, and we get into this negative contagion. And so if we were to use the operating system, if at least one of these parties in this relationship had strong mental fitness, hopefully they both do, what would happen is you would have this operating system you could use. So step 1, notice the negative emotions of the saboteur. I would see him squeezing the toothpaste from the middle and notice myself go into controller. I would stop. I would notice myself feeling like I want to control and recognize that is not sage. I need to do some PQ reps. So then step 2, I choose which type of PQ rep I do. And that will help me to shift to my sage inner Jedi. And then step 3, I can then activate my sage. For example, I might activate my curiosity and say, so I get a little curious, and from a sage perspective, I believe that the other party has to have at least 10% right. Like, not everyone is a complete idiot, right? Everyone's got to be at least 10% right. So the sage knows the other party isn't a complete idiot, which is what your saboteurs would say. But I go into this with pure curiosity, and I say, he has to be at least 10% right. I didn't marry a complete moron. So your sage will get you to ask, honey, why do you squeeze the toothpaste from the middle? Why do you do that? But you're doing it from genuine interest, not judgment, not trying to, judge him or make him feel bad, but really curious. And you might be surprised by what you discover. He might say, well, there's a pleasure from doing it this way, or I find it to be more efficient to do it this way. And only when we're at the end of the tube, then I do this rolling thing from the bottom, and I only have to do it once, whereas you have to do it every single time. I just feel like it's more efficient, right? So the curiosity helps you to understand why he does it in his way, and perhaps a compromise might emerge. Maybe you get 2 different toothpastes. Maybe you get something that you press instead of you squeeze. Maybe, right? Like, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But something will emerge. The most important thing is that because you went from curiosity, you went to sage instead of saboteur, you went into this really listening and hearing and caring about the other person. And the conflict turned into a gift of deepening the relationship and deepening the trust. And either you will see that all conflict is bad and it will erode your relationship, or your sage will be able to see the gift and opportunity and convert it into deepening trust in your relationship. And that's how this operating system can work even in conflict in relationship. So what we have done today so far is learning to shift, right? From the saboteur to the sage, from these negative emotions of anxiety, anger, shame, guilt, to curiosity, empathy, creativity, peace, and calm. And it's these 3 simple steps. And if you're able to do this, you are able to start mastering your own mind. And when you're able to master your own mind, you'll be able to become more discerning. You will recognize when the shoulds, the fears are dictating what you do or don't do, how you do or don't show up, and what kind of life you live. And there is so much more to mental fitness. This is the tip of the iceberg. So what we've done today is the equivalent of you wanting to get stronger abs and watching a how-to video on crunches. Just like physical fitness, mental fitness requires you to consistently practice and build those muscles. And in order to have success in building your mental muscle, it requires intense initial practice. It needs to be intense to break through years of old habits. It's like attending a boot camp to get you kickstarted, right? It's like if you wanted a 6-pack, you cannot do 100 sit-ups on the first day of every month and do that for 12 months and expect a 6-pack. You can't do PQ reps once a month and expect to have stronger mental fitness. It needs intense initial practice. So research shows you need to do a minimum 15 minutes of PQ reps a day, 6 to 8 weeks to get started. It will also require you to learn more advanced movements. So what you've learned today is the foundation. You are white belt with mental fitness, right? If you want to move towards black belt to handle the bigger mountains of life's challenges, you need to learn more advanced movements. You need to get to know your saboteurs more. You need to learn other practices that work for you. It's like you can't just do crunches. You need to do the planks. You need to do the Russian twist, all of those different things. And you do need a coach or trainer to help you through this. We all have blind spots. Trust me, I read books for the longest time. I went to ayahuasca. I had my own blind spots, which is why I could not figure out why I was stuck. We don't see what we don't see. We need accountability, because oftentimes the thing we drop first off our list is the thing we need most. You need somebody to help to show you your strengths. It's just like playing a sport. You have a coach there that can help you be accountable, that can show you where your strengths are. And then when it's game time, you're in the game. They're not actually standing next to you telling you exactly what to do, but they help you train for the game. And so, like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Just like physical fitness, mental fitness requires you to consistently work on building those muscles and your capacity. So I invite you, register for part 2 next Saturday. We will dig into getting to know your saboteurs. It is 2 hours. You will do breakout rooms, you will meet each other, and you will really get to like dig in to help you how you self-sabotage and ways that you can overcome those. And I invite you, take your assessment, email me, schedule time to talk to me. I'd be happy to walk you through it. And I have found that particularly among the APA community, there's a scarcity mindset. There's this notion that I shouldn't spend money on myself, that coaching and therapy aren't things I should engage in. There's a huge stigma. And it's whether it's the stigma, whether it's the cost of the money or the time that it'll take away from me doing all these other things so that I can achieve more stuff, right? We have a scarcity mindset. So I'll leave you with this thought, which is when you learn how much you're worth, you will stop giving people discounts. So how much are you worth to you? If you want to connect, here's my information. This is one of my favorite pictures of myself. It was on a Google bike. I am a little goofy, so I will stop the presentation now. And if there are any questions, happy to answer them.
Don't be shy, y'all. This is your opportunity.
How do you engage the people that you care about in your world to, so I feel like I've been on a path of, mindfulness and self-improvement and awareness, and not everyone who I care about wants to, talk about the same things or care about the same things. And I guess, how do you set up your environment, either mentally, physically, or just people, to put yourself in the best place to succeed?
That's a really great question. So the only thing you have control over is you. And so it starts with you. And if you are on that path, then that's wonderful. The other thing is setting healthy boundaries is very important, because you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with. And so who is draining you? Who energizes you? And can you set those boundaries? And surround yourself with people who will uplift you. And that doesn't, sometimes people think it sounds harsh, but it's for your own well-being too. If somebody is just draining you, sucking the life out of you, and causing you a lot of mental distress, like, for your own well-being, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself. And you can do what you can for other people. And if they don't want to take it, that's the best you can do. And just recognizing and giving yourself forgiveness for that too.
We have another question that was asked a little while ago, but is it helpful to let others know what your saboteur is so they can help you be aware?
Oh yeah, definitely. It is super helpful to, so my husband and I actually, the reason I got certified in the whole positive intelligence program, my husband and I did it together. And it was so, and it really depends on your relationship. It was so beneficial for both of us to do it together, because we started recognizing, and I would tell him, hey, so I know I have the controller and this is what I'm working on. And he knows he has the avoider. So I'm trying to control, he's trying to avoid. Like, that was a real story of us, right? I have the hyper vigilant, so I worry about things more than him, and he has hyper rational. So when I'm afraid of something, he will try to use his rationalization and gives me facts and statistics, and fear is not rational, right? And we used to argue about it, but so he would say, I'm going to try to, use more empathy, but if I'm not, please be forgiving when I mess up. And I will tell him, I'll even warn him like, hey, my hypervigilant is kind of active right now and I'm kind of afraid of stuff. So just please don't rationalize. And so that's very, very helpful in relationships, personal relationships and work relationships. So we have done this work with teams in the work environment, and it helps teams to get to understand and work with each other better. If you understand each other, like, okay, that guy, he's always going to try to be the rational one, and understanding that perspective and how do you engage and interact. So it helps in all sorts of environments.
Anything else?
Hey, Amy, I had a question. This is Angela.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for today's workshop. We learned a lot, and I'm grateful that you guys are here to give back to the community. I was wondering if you had any recommendations for great mental health books that you have read through your journey to become a coach. Because my book club just yesterday, we're trying to figure out what book we want to read for next month, and our theme is mental health. So today I was like, oh, maybe this is something I can ask Amy.
I highly recommend the Positive Intelligence book. It's very short, but it's a great foundation for understanding mental fitness and how we tend to self-sabotage.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Do you still have a coach?
Yes. And if anybody here is looking for a coach, when you are looking for a coach, one of the biggest questions you should ask them is, do you have a coach? How do you self-develop? Because if nobody's perfect and nobody will ever reach this like place of I know everything. And if that's where somebody says they are or believes they are and they're not trying to grow themselves, then how will they ever have empathy and be able to help you? Because they don't know what it's like, or they think that, there's this place, magical place to get to. So everybody should either have a therapist or a coach. And if somebody is not, willing to invest in themselves, it's kind of hypocritical, right? Like, so highly recommend that. That's one of the top questions you ask if you ever hire a coach.
Hey, Amy, it's Evelyn Shum. I just wanted to jump in and say, I really love that insight. I'm a coach as well, and I'm so grateful for you to bring this work to this community in particular. I live in North Carolina, so I'm not local, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people who aren't local to Maryland right now, but I am not working full time as a coach at the moment, and I haven't done, it's been interesting to hear the all have upbringing, that when you say shame, for us, for me in particular, as a first generation American and Chinese American, that has a particular resonance to me. And the saboteurs, it was just so interesting that you brought up the hyper achievement, because there's achievement and then there's hyper achievement. And so I wonder for you, as you've been through this particular journey, what you've learned from either sharing or not sharing with your own familial circle or other Asian Americans. What is particularly interesting or difficult, as you even say, like, this is the journey I'm on, and this is how I even want to bring my learnings to others.
Great question. So in terms of, if I were to start from the closest, like sharing with my parents and my closest family, I actually had a breakdown the day before my wedding with my parents, and I broke down in tears because I told them, for one, I married a big white dude, and I was their last hope for marrying a Chinese guy and having like 100% Chinese child, right? Because my sisters, both of them didn't marry Chinese. So I was their last hope. And so I felt a bit of like, oh, I let them down on that front. And then, I had this emotional breakdown and I cried to my mom, and I just like, I don't know where it came from, but I told her, I feel like, you're ashamed of me and you're not proud of me. And it makes me sad that I feel like you'll never be proud of me. I'm like about to cry right now, but like, it was the first time where she hugged me and she was like, look, I will never understand you, but I love you and I just want you to be happy. And maybe I don't show it and maybe I don't do it in the right way, but trust me, I love you, and just do what makes you happy. And don't try to explain stuff to me because I won't ever understand it. And that was, one of the most loving things. And then when I tried, and I think, so I mentioned I did ayahuasca. One of the insights that I got from it was that it takes more courage to take off that whole armor and be vulnerable. And when you are vulnerable and you share your own story, it invites other people to feel safe and to share their story and to not feel so alone. Because part of why there's so much challenge within the APA community is because we all feel so alone, because we are not allowed to speak about this stuff. You want face, right? For yourself, your family, and it's lonely. And the only way to be able to overcome it is to realize you are not alone and that you have other people on this journey. And so if you met me probably like 3-4 years ago, I would not be sharing any of this with you. I'd have on this armor, like and you can ask my husband. He was like, I just want to take care of you. I'm like, I don't need your help. I'm a strong Asian woman. That's how I grew up. Like, I don't need you to do anything for me. And it was, my ayahuasca experience made me realize, like, it takes more courage to ask for help. It takes more courage to share, to be vulnerable, and to like put yourself out there than to have on this armor. It's actually easy to have the armor. And if it can help one other person, then yeah, I'm going to go tell the world about everything. And also when you share, it helps you to heal whatever it is that you need to heal.
Thanks, Amy. I really appreciate that. I'll just type my my bit in the chat, but I really appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, of course. And yes to Yi, who said being vulnerable connects to others. 100%.
If there's no other questions, I just want to turn it over to Bobby.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Amy, for this eye-opening discussion and this great learning experience. And I think I even learned, I learned a lot, even though I was just trying to help organize using my hyperachiever saboteur. Like, look, we need to do something for APAN, like for the first year, so I'm glad that, personally, I was able to just learn something that got out of it, So I wanted to remind everyone a couple things. So if you want to continue to build your mental fitness, invest in yourself, please register for next week's session. And APAN is, a community. So if you all want to get involved, we would love your help. So if you're interested in helping APAN in any way, feel free to reach out to our group email address. We'll type it in the chat window so you can reach out. And for those who attended, as a thank you, we're going to draw a random person to get a free registration for next week's session. So we'll reply back to the person who got it. But in either case, the registration links are available. We can send it after this call, just so everyone has it again. And we really appreciate everyone joining today. I think this is one of the most successful events that we've had, and obviously it struck a chord with a lot of folks because of the interest and attendance. I hope that you continue joining us next week as well as future events. Thank you all again, and have a happy Saturday. And for the folks in the DMV area, happy snow day soon.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much, Amy. And thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
And hope to see everyone for part
Yes.
2. All right.
I see a lot of people doing this. Yes, keep doing that.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Thank you,
Thank
everyone. Have a
you.
great weekend.
Bye.